Welcome back to the deep dive. You know how we roll here, taking something that seems really complicated, pulling it apart, and making it just click. Today, we're diving deep into something you've probably heard about, maybe seen mentioned online, but weren't quite sure about. System and organization controls. SOC reports. Sounds a bit dry, maybe. Trust me, it's actually fascinating stuff.
It really is. And that's our mission for this deep dive, isn't it? We want to demystify these SOC engagements and reports. We're going to break down what they're for, the different kinds, and what they really mean for businesses, and maybe more importantly, what they mean for you when you're interacting with these companies online, which is, well, pretty much all the time now. By the end, you'll definitely see why these reports are so crucial for building trust in this digital world we live in.
Okay, let's jump right in. The whole idea starts with a really common situation, right? When one company, let's call them the user entity, hires another company, the service organization, to do something for them. Outsourcing, basically. It happens everywhere.
Everywhere. Think about it.
Yeah, like companies that handle payroll for other businesses or those huge cloud providers storing everyone's data, photos, business files, you name it. Credit card processors, companies managing whole IT departments for others, all those fintech services handling payments or loans. Even customer support chat lines are often outsourced.
Exactly. And that relationship, that outsourcing, immediately brings up a need for, well, assurance, external assurance. If you're that user entity, you're trusting someone else with critical stuff, data, operations. You need to know their house is in order, control-wise.
And it's not just you, right? Your own auditors probably need that proof too.
Precisely. So SOC reports are how you get that independent verification.
Yeah.
You have an independent CPA firm, we call them the service auditor, come in. They follow specific AICPA standards to perform the audit and issue the report. It's really how trust is built and how risks are assessed when you rely on these third parties.
Okay, so that's the why. Now, you mentioned different kinds. Let's unpack those main types of SOC reports. SOC 1, 2, and 3.
That's right. They're tailored for different needs, different audiences. Let's start with SOC 1. The full name is SOC 1, Internal Control over Financial Reporting.
Okay, sounds specific.
It is. It focuses only on controls of the service organization that could impact a user entity's financial statements. So think payroll again. If they mess up payroll processing, it hits your financials. That's where SOC 1 comes in. And a key point, the audience is super restricted. Management of the service org, the user entities, and their auditors. That's it, not for the public eye.
Got it. Restricted use. What about SOC 2? That sounds like the one we hear about more often with data security.
Yeah, SOC 2 gets a lot of attention, especially now. It's SOC 2, Trust Services Criteria. This one is all about controls related to, well, 5 key areas. The AICPA calls them the Trust Services categories. Security, availability, processing integrity, confidentiality, and privacy. We'll dig into those later.
Okay, CAPPS. I think I've seen that.
That's the mnemonic, yeah. CAPPS. Makes it easier to remember. Now, like SOC 1, SOC 2 reports are also restricted use. They're meant for specified parties, people who already have a pretty good handle on the service organization, what they do, how their systems work.
So not just anyone off the street could pick one up and fully understand it.
Probably not. You ideally need to know about the service itself, how the systems interact, the basics of internal control, something called complementary user entity controls.
Whoa, what are those?
Good question. Complementary user entity controls are the things the user organization needs to do on their end to make the whole system work properly. The service organization's controls don't exist in a vacuum.
Ah, okay. So the user has responsibilities too. Makes sense.
Exactly. Without that background knowledge, a SOC2 report might not give you the full picture, or you might misunderstand it.
All right. So SOC 1 for financial controls, SOC 2 for these trust services criteria like security, both restricted. What's SOC 3 then?
SOC 3 is also about the trust services criteria, same TAPPS categories. It's SOC 3, trust services criteria for general use report.
General use. That sounds different.
It is. That's the key difference. As SOC 3 is designed for a broader audience, general users, who need assurance, but don't have that deep technical knowledge needed for a SOC 2. Think of it like a summary report. It confirms the service organization met the criteria. But crucially, it doesn't include the detailed description of the controls or the auditor's specific tests and results.
So it's more like a seal of approval you can show publicly.
Exactly. You often see a SOC3 logo or report available on a company's website as a public statement of their commitment to those trust principles.
Okay, that clarifies the main 3. And you mentioned briefly there are others, like for cybersecurity or supply chain.
That's right. SOC for cybersecurity and SOC for supply chain are more specialized engagements, showing how versatile this whole framework is. But SOC 1, 2, and 3 are the big ones most people encounter.
Got it. Now, another layer here is the time factor. You hear about Type 1 and Type 2 reports. What's the difference? Is one better than the other?
That's a really important distinction, and yes, it applies mainly to SOC 1 and SOC 2 reports. SOC 3, remember, is always Type 2.
Okay.
So Type 1 report,
Yeah.
if you think it as a snapshot, a picture taken on a specific day. It looks at management's description of their system and checks if the controls were designed suitably as of that specific date. Did the blueprints look good on January 1st?
Just the design on one day.
Right. Now, a Type 2 report is more like a movie. It covers a period of time, usually 6 months or a year.
Uh-huh.
It assesses not just the design suitability, but also the operating effectiveness of those controls throughout that whole period. Did the controls actually work consistently day after day?
Ah, okay. That operating effectiveness part seems key. So, the analogy from our source fits perfectly. A Type 1 report covers the system design as of a given point in time, whereas a Type 2 report covers both the design and operating effectiveness over a period of time.
That sums it up nicely. And the big difference in the report itself is that a Type 2 includes details about the tests the auditor performed on those controls and what the results were. Type 1 doesn't have that.
So if I'm relying on a service, I probably want to see a Type 2.
Generally, yes. Let's use that example. Your company, Wyatt Co., uses Database Inc. for sales contracts.
Mm-hmm.
Your auditors at Wyatt Co. don't just want to know Database Inc.'s controls looked good on paper back in January, Type 1. They want assurance the controls actually worked effectively from January through June, Type 2. That Type 2 report gives them comfort that things were operating as expected over that whole period. It's much stronger assurance.
Makes perfect sense. Seeing the performance record, not just the specs. Okay, let's circle back to those trust services criteria, the heart of SOC2 and SOC3. You mentioned the mnemonic CAPPS. Let's break that down.
Right, CAPPS.
Yeah.
It helps keep the 5 categories straight. First, C is confidentiality. Pretty straightforward. Is information that's supposed to be confidential actually protected from unauthorized eyes? Think business plans, customer lists, that sort of thing.
Okay. C for confidentiality.
Then A is availability. Is the system up and running when you need it? Can you access your data or the service reliably? It's about preventing unexpected downtime.
A for availability. Got it.
First, P stands for processing integrity.
Yeah.
This one's really important. Does the system do what it's supposed to do completely, accurately, on time, and with proper authorization? Are transactions processed correctly? Are there errors? Is data manipulated inappropriately?
P for processing integrity. Seems critical for financial stuff or anything data heavy.
Absolutely. Second P is privacy. This is distinct from confidentiality. Privacy focuses specifically on personal information, how it's collected, used, stored, disclosed, and eventually disposed of. Does it follow the company's privacy notice and relevant regulations like GDPR or CCPA?
Right. P for privacy, handling personal data correctly.
And finally, S is for security. This is often called the common criteria because it underpins all the others. It's about protecting the system and the data from unauthorized access, disclosure, or damage. Think firewalls, intrusion detection, access controls, the foundational security measures.
S for security, the bedrock. So CAPPS, confidentiality, availability, processing integrity, privacy, and security.
You got it. And because security threats are, well, everywhere, that security criterion is almost always included in any SOC2 or SOC3 engagement.
And you mentioned these PPS criteria are flexible, showing up in those other SOC reports too.
Exactly. They provide a consistent framework. SOC for cybersecurity obviously leans heavily on security, but might also touch on availability or confidentiality.
Yeah.
SOC for supply chain could use security, availability, processing integrity to ensure trust along the chain. It's a common language.
That's really helpful. Now, connecting this to something even broader, you said these criteria aren't just made up. They align with something called the COSO framework. What's that about?
Yes, COSO. That stands for the Committee of Sponsoring Organizations of the Treadway Commission. It's a bit of a mouthful.
Yeah.
But the COSO Internal Control Integrated Framework is basically the gold standard, a widely accepted framework for designing, implementing, and evaluating internal control within any organization. Aligning the trust services criteria with COSO means SOC reports are grounded in these fundamental, well-established principles of good control. It adds a layer of rigor and credibility. The framework has 5 main components, supported by 17 underlying principles.
Okay, 5 components. Can we quickly walk through how the trust services criteria like fit into those, make it a bit more concrete?
Sure. First is the control environment. This is the foundation, the tone at the top.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the organization's commitment to integrity, ethical values, oversight structure, attracting good people, holding them accountable. It sets the stage.
Right, the company culture around controls.
Exactly. Second is risk assessment. How does the organization identify risks to its objectives? How does it analyze them, consider fraud risk, and identify changes that could impact controls?
Being proactive about what could go wrong.
hmm Third, control activities. These are the actual actions, the policies and procedures put in place to mitigate the risks identified. This is where a lot of the trust services criteria fit in detail, especially those supplemental criteria we touched on. Logical and physical access controls, system operations controls, change management, risk mitigation strategies.
Okay, the specific things they do.
Fourth component, information and communication. How does the organization get and share quality information, both internally and externally needed to support the controls? Is communication clear and effective?
Makes sense. Can't have controls without good info flow.
And fifth is monitoring activities. How did the organization continuously check if controls are present and working? Are they doing ongoing evaluations or separate audits? And how do they report and fix deficiencies?
Checking that the controls are actually doing their job over time.
Precisely. So the trust services criteria map onto these 5 COSO components. Many criteria are considered common criteria. They apply across security, availability, processing integrity, confidentiality, and privacy because they relate to things like the control environment or monitoring. But then you have additional specific criteria for availability, the A series, processing integrity, PI series, confidentiality, C series, and privacy, P series. Security mainly uses the common criteria.
Ah, okay. So like extra detail for those specific areas.
Exactly. For availability, the specific criteria dives deeper into things like maintaining processing capacity, handling environmental threats, data backup procedures, offsite storage, and actually testing disaster recovery plans.
Making sure it stays up and running and can recover.
Right. For processing integrity, the specific criteria look at getting quality source data, implementing policies around inputs, the actual processing steps, outputs, and storage to ensure things are complete, accurate, valid, timely.
All about the accuracy and reliability of the processing.
Mhm. For confidentiality, it's about specifically identifying confidential info, implementing controls to protect it during its life cycle, and ensuring proper disposal when it's no longer needed.
Protecting secrets.
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
And for privacy, the specific criteria are quite extensive. They cover everything from notice and communication about privacy practices, P1.0, choice and consent, P2.0, collection limitation, P3.0, use, retention, and disposal, P4.0, access for individuals, P5.0, disclosure rules and breach notification, P6.0, ensuring data quality, P7.0, and finally, monitoring and enforcement of privacy policies, P8.0.
Wow, privacy gets really detailed.
It has to, given the focus on personal data protection these days. It's a very comprehensive set of criteria.
Okay, wow, that really was a deep dive. We went from the basic idea of user entities and service organizations through SOC 1, 2, and 3, Type 1 versus Type 2, unpack the CIPPS criteria.
Confidentiality, availability, processing integrity, privacy, security.
Right, and then connected it all back to the foundational COSO framework. I feel like I actually understand what these reports signify now. It really does feel like a shortcut to understanding if you can trust a service provider with your important stuff.
It absolutely is. They provide that structured, independent assessment that's so vital. And maybe, as a final thought to leave you with, think about this. We live so much of our lives interacting with outsourced services, often without even realizing it. How much attention do you normally pay to the unseen controls, the assurances like SOC reports that are working behind the scenes to protect your data, your transactions? Perhaps knowing a bit more about them now changes how you think about digital trust and maybe prompts you to look for that assurance more often. It's definitely something worth considering in our connected world.